Anti-Afro Bengalis, I wanted to talk about the actual criminals in and around the Umar Johnson sector and focus primarily on this term, sitting on doxed information. Now, this is a term we have heard coming mainly from Keeping It Plain, aka KIP, sitting on doxed information. One thing that has always been evident in and around the Umar Johnson sector is the lack of knowledge and understanding about the term doxing. This was covered in some detail on Smoke's channel when there was reference to the term hacking. That was the term that came down traditionally. But as social media became more and more popular, a new term was needed because hacking is straight up 100% illegal. It involves using illegal methods to obtain information you have no legal right to have by whatever means you use, whatever resources you use. It doesn't matter the method you use, you don't have any right to access the information. When it comes to the term doxing, doxing is not illegal. But there needed to be a in-between term because you're dealing with now electronic access that essentially everybody has. So whenever somebody presented information on YouTube that people were shocked about, it wouldn't be appropriate to call everybody a hacker, so they came up with this term doxing. And I have to be honest with you, I think there's racism involved with the modification of this term. I think they didn't want to label a lot of white people that were primarily the ones being caught up in this initially. Yes, all races and cultures are involved, but this was seen as primarily a white collar crime. And it became more and more prevalent as more and more money became involved. So I think they had to make it less serious in the eyes of society. So they came up with this word doxing. I'm certainly not going to minimize it, but doxing is not illegal. So let's get back to hacking, because I want to be very clear about how we're making these differences prominent. Hacking is never legal. Now, I want to be clear about what the U.S. Supreme Court has said about this. If you go onto a social media platform, let's use Facebook, because Facebook, they do this research continuously. And right now, Facebook continues to be the number one social media platform, and YouTube is number two. Let's say you go into Facebook and you use a screen name that's not your screen name, cinnamon buns, and you want to learn information about somebody on Facebook, but you don't want them to know who you are. You send a friend request, and that person responds and adds you to their friend list. They don't know your real identity. So you become a friend and you get into their friend page, or you're in part of their private Facebook group, and you get information about them, and they start talking about the job, and you're a coworker, and you're like, oh my God, they're talking all kinds of shit about this. Oh my goodness, they're making racist statements. Oh my God, they're saying that. Oh, they're just trashing religions. They're just violating all kinds of rules. They're just completely trashing the company, talking all kinds of shit. And this is a private Facebook group that's got nothing to do with the job officially. It's a private group that people are venting their frustrations and feelings. You have permission to be there. You don't have to give your legal name to be in a group, on any social media group. So you decide, you know what? I don't like what this person is saying. I think I need to turn them in. You turn the person in. What do you think is going to happen? Well, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled, even if it's a social media account that is set on private, they still have a right to fire you. If it's a social media group set to private that is still considered public. It's not hacking because you got in legally. You asked permission and the person let you in. There's no hacking. There's no doxing. Nothing. You got in using a fake name. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people on Facebook and social media use names other than their own. But you were officially friended. There is no privacy with these privately set accounts. Supreme Court has ruled on that. So let's use another example. You use illegal means, electronic trickery, illegal tools. However you do that. There are all types of ways that these hackers can access to illegally access electronic portals, networks. They can crash into systems, large systems. We've seen it. Medical records. The FBI's been hacked. You don't have permission to get into the system. You use a method that it's illegal. You don't have permission. It's without the knowledge of the system, the account holder. They don't know you're doing it. That is hacking and that is a crime. 100% of the time, hacking is a crime. It's a felony. That is the difference. The difference between hacking and doxing. When you get the information through hacking and you put it out there, yes, technically speaking, it's doxing, but you released information that wasn't in other ways publicly accessible and you got it through illegal means. That's the difference. The intention becomes criminal. With doxing, it doesn't matter what the intention is. If you put information out there and it's publicly accessible, that's not doxing. If you get information and you put it out there and the intent is criminal, that means there was another crime associated with it. That means you're doing something else. That's why doxing is never illegal. So many times people get information and put it out there and it's already there. It's already publicly accessible. 99% of the time, when people put information out and they call it doxing, it's not doxing because the information was already publicly accessible. There are 2 instances in and around the Umar Johnson sector that people called doxing and it was hacking. And this is the Social Security situation. And it's a situation involving the probation records. Antonio Johnson, DJ Drama, and Alexis Avent, Mona De Leon. Yeah, their names need to be stated. They committed felonies. It is hacking, but you illegally go into a system for purposes you have no business getting into the system for. That is hacking. You don't have a right to get into the system for the reason you got into the system. Antonio Johnson, DJ Drama, and Alexis Avent, Mona De Leon. Yeah, their names need to be stated. They committed felonies. It is hacking, but you illegally go into a system for purposes you have no business getting into the system for. That is hacking. You don't have a right to get into the system for the reason you got into the system. I said earlier, there are only 2 pure definitions or 2 pure episodes of doxing. It is not even doxing. You can label that hacking. Again, doxing is the soft term to let a certain group off the hook because they don't want to consider them hackers. Because you had everybody on social media. Releasing information that's already been released is not a crime. So people can run around here and try to label people doxers. The overwhelming majority of the time, the information has already been released. Now, if somebody releases information and it hasn't already been released, then it's not considered doxing, it's considered another crime. Unauthorized access to a record system, a data breach. There are all different types of legal statutes that would apply. And it always involves criminal intent. It doesn't matter what the intent is behind doxing. If it's a criminal intent, then you're talking about an actual crime. You're not going to see the word doxing in a statute. You're going to see other statutes involved. The Federal Privacy Rights Act and all of the state laws that apply to illegally accessing information or a record system. They're not going to say a doxing law. I reemphasize the word doxing is a social term. It's not a legal term because they're trying to soften the blow of a certain group, not wanting them to be considered hackers, because 100% of the time, hacking is a serious crime. It's a felony offense. When you hear the word doxing, look and see what comes after it. Is there crime associated with that act? Not only do you have unauthorized access into record system, you have sexual harassment, aka calling the police and making false reports, showing up to people's houses, you have threatening people's children, sexually invoking people's children. It's on and on and on. And of course, it extends to relatives. These subjects just will try anything, throwing spaghetti at the wall. Anything they can try and do to see if they're going to hit the mark. And this is all criminal intent. These are the things that arise from what people call doxing. So again, the doxing would not be criminal. It's the behavior that arises from it. The hacking always is criminal by itself. And then you add that on, it's aggravated when you put all the rest of the things that I just mentioned and then some into the mix. These are the crimes that we have all seen occur. Talking about Kip's son, talking about Rev G, talking about myself, talking about breaking the culture of silence, talking about remix. I can go on. All of the crimes that have been perpetrated against others. And it starts out as people saying doxing. No, take doxing off the table. There are other crimes. We're calling it exactly what it is. You're not going to see doxing on legal paperwork. You're going to see the other criminal offenses on the paperwork. So sitting on doxed information, the term itself, starting out, you can say it's accurate, but it dissipates because there are actual serious crimes that come out of it. You have serious criminal offenses arising from that. And it was criminal intent. And I hope to God the district attorney has that case sitting on the desk and is reviewing it. This would have to have been referred to the district attorney, getting to the record system, hacking into the system, and doing multiple searches on people who are not even being supervised by probation. Such a serious violation of people's rights that can place the agency in serious peril. This is exactly what had happened with Kip's son. And you never know what people's intentions are. I talked about this in another video. These police officers and probation officer, whoever has access to these records, were going in there and getting records on people so people can be taken out, putting hits on people. Actually putting hits on people. Oh yeah, can you go in there and get so-and-so because my cousin got into a fight with so-and-so. They could be going into the system and getting information for third and fourth party hits. The probation officer or the cop don't give a crap. They're just probably getting a payoff, getting $200 to go search a name and get an address and a phone number, and somebody don't even know, they end up dead. This is a reason why situations like this can't be just taken with a grain of salt. There needs to be severe consequences. Anyone who does something like this should never be trusted again with any confidential databases, and their credentials need to be stripped. They must be stripped and they must be prosecuted. You need to send a strong, clear message. Those who snoop around in people's records have no business in the law enforcement agency. Their public trust has been eviscerated permanently. You want to take a chance again? You want to take the chance again of this dude looking up whose records the next time? Your records the next time? He gets pissed at you, who wants to go snooping around in your shit and tell somebody who you are and where you live and what your background is? It's all good when it happens to other people, but when it happens to you, then they have something to say about it. But we're going to see what happens with this. By no means is this the end. You perpetrate the crime, you should do the time. Just like those who came into DJ Drama's office, Antonio Johnson's office, sat down and had to listen to what he had to say about their probation terms. He needs to be in the same situation. That's what happens when you perpetrate criminal offenses. You need to be placed on supervision. Or if the crime is serious enough, you need your ass sitting in the county jail or state prison or federal prison. This should not be taken lightly. You don't have the right to be go snooping around in people's freaking private records. Nerve to run around here perpetrating these crimes and trying to put your crimes on other people. This is just like the freaking Menendez. I can't believe this garbage. It's the same mindset. Took their parents out and tried their hardest to pin their crimes on other people. Hell bent on not taking a lick of responsibility for what they did. And now they want to be released from prison. It was bad enough they were already walking around for like 7 or 8 months after they blew their parents away. The same thing with this fool. I'm sure he was fighting for his job. He wants to keep the job so he can continue to violate people's rights. It doesn't matter what the crime is. You violate trust, that is it. You're done. Go get a job doing something else. If you knocked off your parents and you got sentenced to life in prison without parole, it is what it is. Who else gets those privileges? Well, listen, folks, there are no privileges when you perpetrate crimes. You need to do your time. It is no different with Antonio Johnson. Nobody told him to go snooping around in people's freaking records. It's the same expectation for anybody else who is involved with this bullshit. You don't get free passes to violate people's rights and you get to sell off into the sunset like nothing ever happened. Everybody who is involved has it coming and should have it coming. We don't care what anybody has to say about our position on that. Like they would be happy if somebody hacked into their records. It'd be, oh, it's okay. I don't care if you get into my medical records and my social security records. I'm not going to say nothing. Bullshit. We know good and damn well they would protest. They were protesting shit that wasn't even done. They're sending in false reports. They're sending in lies. They wanted people punished for shit they didn't do. So you're not going to tell me they were going to blow it off if someone actually violated their rights and committed crimes against them. No way. We are not going to forget about it. We're not going to blow it off. We don't care that DJ Drama Antonio Johnson is a black man. It makes no difference. You do the crime, you do the time. Of course, more to come. In the meantime, buyer beware.